Jupiter enters in Leo the 1st of July 2026, and this is not an expansion of benefits. This is not an expansion of abundance. This is not like the blessings following from the sky. This is a moment of a true and really a deep moment of challenges that we are going to be facing in our Leo zone. And I will be making this analysis for personal astrology and also for mundane astrology, what's coming for the world, for the leaders specifically, because Leo is the sign who represents the leaders, governments, presidents, famous people, like influencers and everything like that. And also for every one of us, Leo is the zone where we are seeking for recognition, applause, and this is defining our self esteem. So, Leo is the sign of the sun, your primary and vital energy, and also the sun in mundane astrology, the leaders and governments. So, this is the big institutional crisis, and this is the big crisis of authenticity in ourselves and everything that we are right now trying to accomplish as goals and projects for the future. So, I welcome you all. My name is Carolina Mar, and this is Astrology Predictions with Jupiter entering in the sign of Leo for this 1st of July 2026. I will be starting showing you the chart, okay, and I will put here everything that matters. Here is the sun is in the 8th degree of Cancer. We have also Mercury retrograde. He will be retrograding until the August, I think, and we have here Jupiter in mostly, of course, the 0 degrees of Leo, and we have Saturn in the 10th house. We have the conjunction between Mars and Uranus in Gemini. We have Pluto in Aquarius in the 8th house, and we have the Moon in Capricorn. And it's interesting here to analyze that Jupiter is entering in Leo with a really conflictive sky. He's in an opposition with Pluto. The first step that he's making um, in Leo will be in an opposition with Pluto. Also, he's in square with Jupiter. Okay, and we have in the chart itself, we have a Saturn in a square with the sun in opposition with the moon in a square with Saturn. This is making a T square, and this is a conflict moment of tension, one of the most complicated aspects of astrology, specifically in mundane astrology. So we have to understand that this chart is the one who is showing us how this Jupiter will be unfolding in Leo for the next year. Okay, we have to understand that the South Lunar Node is getting into Leo at the ending of July, so he will be joining Jupiter there, and the South Lunar Node represents a closure. It's a closure of a cycle of something that belongs to the past. So um, for get us starting, Jupiter entry in Leo should not be interpreted as a simple transit of expansion, prosperity, or growth. In mundane astrology, no planet can be analyzed in isolation. Every entry is a part of larger historical context. And in this case, Jupiter arrives at in a scenario profoundly different from that of other cycles. Leo will be, during the coming years, one of the leading signs of collective change. Eclipses will occur there, the South Lunar Node will enter, and a profound revision of the concepts of leadership, authority, and power will be activated. Therefore, Jupiter's function will not only be to expand, it will be to amplify with that which must subsequently be transformed. It could be said that this transit represents the last great impulse of a model that is beginning to show clear signs of exhaustion. The eclipses will not create the crisis, they will make it inevitable. And Jupiter will be the first to increase its visibility. We have to understand that Jupiter is the sun, is the planet that expands everything. So it's kind of, we are having a big crisis right now, institutional crisis, international crisis. Those are the words that represents Jupiter itself. And Jupiter is now expanding everything because Jupiter is not a benefactor for himself or for his nature. Jupiter is an expansive planet. So if he is entering with a lot of conflicts in between planets, and in the chart is a chart of a lot of tension, Jupiter will amplify everything that is now in conflict, that is now in a tension, that is now falling down. Okay, so this is why I am saying that this is not bringing to the world or to you in your life, in your personal life, every blessings of the sky. This is bringing to you and the collective change at a big challenge, a big moment of, like a test. And we are going to be redefining our self esteem, our notion of authority, and our shining quality. Okay, so the mundane meaning of Jupiter, okay, is represents the economic expansion, governments, the major structures that enable modern societies to function. These include parliaments, congresses, supreme courts, the legal system, religious institutions, university, international treaties, diplomacy, foreign relationships, international trades, borders, the international financial system, trust in institutions, collective morality. So, as I said before, we have here, okay, the conclusion of the full moon in Capricorn that we had on the 29th, okay, because you can see here that the opposition is still getting in these aspects, okay, and here we have the sun, the leaders who wants to take, the identity of the nations, and the moon, that is the people, population, you and me, societies. They are in the seventh house, and seventh house is the enemies who are declared. So now the leaders have an enemy that is simple and is visible and is taking a war, taking light, and those enemies are the people, the societies that they represents. Okay, so um, when Jupiter is harmonious, it fosters economical growth, international cooperation, diplomatic agreements, and institutional stability. However, when it experiences periods of tense collective tension, it can also produce the exact opposite effect. It doesn't destroy it, it exaggerates, it's amplified, it makes visible what was already developing silently. And that's what we are seeing here, because Jupiter is getting into Leo with a big historical tension. Leo as a historical stage. Leo represents visible power. It represents what society admires. It symbolizes the king, the president, the head of a state, the political leader, public figures, the education system, entertainment, professional sports, childhood, birth rates, and the construction of collective identity. When a sign like Leo becomes the protagonist of an eclipse cycle, the entire symbolic structure of leaderships begins to shift. It's not just the rulers who change, the very idea of authority changes. Society ceases to recognize certain leaders as legitimate and slowly begins to search for new rulers or models. Jupiter will be responsible for expanding this discussion on a global scale. The expansion preceding institutional collapse. This is the big time with Jupiter in Leo, the collapse of institutional leaderships, governments, and the credibility of them. One of the main axes of the transition will be the crisis of institutional legitimacy. For decades, Western democracies have undergone a growing process of or loss of public trust. Citizens distrust political parties. They distrust the media. They distrust the judicial system. They distrust the financial system. And Jupiter governs precisely those or these institutions. Its entry in Leo may represent a period where these tensions are magnified to the point of becoming impossible to conceal. Those who understand the cycle will be not be surprised about this. So it's important that you know your birth chart, that you know the astrological moment, because you have to make decisions for your life and for your projects. Uh, we won't necessarily see the immediate fall of governments, but we will see growing doubts about their ability to govern, parliamentary crisis, fractures within ruling parties, conflicts between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, resignations, scandals, impeachment trials, loss of popular support. All of this could accelerate as the eclipses approach. And we have the first eclipse in this axis, Leo Aquarius, in August. It won't just be a political crisis, it will be a crisis of legitimacy. The crisis of the global leadership. Leo governs leaders, but it also governs prestige, moral authority, and recognition. During this period, many figures who seemed untouchable will begin to lose authority. Presidents, prime ministers, monarchies, international figures, religious leaders, business leaders, even global celebrities. Not necessarily because they will disappear, but because the world will begin to question traditional models of leadership. The old paradigm of the strong leader is slowly beginning to run its course. The transformation of the legal order, okay, because Jupiter represents also everything that is related with the law. Jupiter governs the legal system, the courts, constitutions, international organizations. During this period, following could multiply: constitutional reforms. Those who know the cycle would not be surprised for them. Conflicts between branches of government, historical rulings, corruption investigations, crises within higher courts, challenges to international organizations. The legal system will take center stage on the global political agenda. Some other aspects of Jupiter are related with borders, migration, and international trade. Jupiter also governs borders, trade agreements, international movement, and agreements between states. This transit coincides with an extremely unstable geopolitical scenario. The following could intensify border conflicts, tightening of information or immigration policies, new international alliances, breakdown of historical treaties, reorganization of world trade, trade restrictions, tariff wars, not necessarily as isolated events, but as a part of a profound reorganization of the international system. Financial markets, when excess precedes correction. Jupiter is often associated with economical optimism, but excessive optimism also produces bubbles. Leo is associated with increases speculation and favors the pursuit of recognition and quick success. Markets could go through a phase of financial euphoria. However, when excess reaches its peak, any loss of confidence can generate extremely violent corrections. More than a cycle of a stable growth, this influx seems to describe a scenario of enormous volatility. Confidence will be the true asset of the markets, and that very confidence begins to weaken. The changing concept of fame. Leo governs show business, celebrities, artists, athletes, and major cultural figures. These transits may mark the beginning of the end for the traditional celebrity model. A scandal, public exposures, lawsuits, fallout of historical figures, profound changes in the entertainment industry. Society will begin to choose different role models. Other theme will be education under review. Leo also represents the formation of new generations. Meanwhile, Jupiter governs university and knowledge. This cycle may bring profound educational reforms. Artificial intelligence will begin to radically modify the traditional teaching model. Universities, school, learning methods, certifications, everything could enter in a process of transformation. The demographic crisis. Leo literally represents childhood and birth. Chiron in Taurus open a wound related to resources, the cost of living, and economic stability. Many societies will begin to face with greater intensity a crisis that has been developing for years. Fewer and fewer people will be able to financially support a family. Governments might begin to implement active policies to encourage birth rate. Those who understand the cycle, remember, will not be taken by surprise. So you have to make your personal analysis for you to know where you are standing up right now in this moment. The discussion will no longer be solely social, it will become strategic. Climate nature also expands. One of the most relevant themes of this cycle will be the intensification of natural phenomena, not only due to Jupiter, but also due to the combination of Jupiter in Leo, Uranus in Gemini, Chiron in Tauron, Saturn and Neptune in Aries. The possible consolidation of a super El Nino event, we could observe historic heat waves, large scale forest fires, exceptional thunderstorm, volcanic activity, extreme droughts, torrential rains, floods, agricultural losses, disruption in the food supply, and I have to say here, nature becoming or beginning to respond in a much more extreme way to a planet that is already under severe climatical stress. Excess will be the word of the cycle. If we had to summarize Jupiter entry into Leo in a single word, it would probably be excess, excessive leadership, excessive power, excessive ego, excessive polarization, overconfidence, over speculation, over propaganda, climate excess, over nationalism, and excess of events. But every excess contains the seed of its own correction, and it's precisely there that the true meaning of the cycle appears. The conclusion is that Jupiter in Leo does not usher in a period of stability. It inaugurates the moment when contradictions accumulated over years begin to become visible. Subsequent eclipses will act as a mechanism of collective purification. Government, institution, markets, celebrities, educational models, international relationship, everything that has lost its authenticity will slowly begin to crumble. It will not be a transit to destroy the world, it will be the transit to reveal what can no longer be sustained. Jupiter expansion will show how far the old paradigm has gone and the old world has gone. The eclipses will decide which part of the paradigm can survive and which must give way to a new historical stage. So, now we are going to see something about it with these slides that I prepared for you. Okay, Jupiter enters in Leo, the last act before the curtain falls. Okay, we have the ingress and the load. Jupiter closes Cancer at 29:59 degrees and sign final breath right before crossing the border. It reaches the freehold, making the chart's five most important aspects. Are going to be seeing here people facing power, as I said before, the sun, power, governments, leaders, crown, celebrity, anyone holding a seat of command and exposure. And the moon is the people in an opposition. The people would what holds up of breakdown in daily life, the opinion that no longer stayed quiet. The unfinished message, what gets announced now, will have to be rewritten later because this chart is getting with Mercury conjunct Jupiter, but Mercury is retrograde. So agreements, treaties, and statements released in this window will need